Our first speaker this morning comes to us from the University of Northern Iowa, Andrew Stephenson. He is a project coordinator for the Center for Social and Behavioral Research. He's also the Agroecology Technical Advisory Group Coordinator for the Eastern Tallgrass Prairie and the Big River Landscape Conservation Cooperative. And we don't have an acronym for that one yet. So Andrew's going to talk to us about water quality in Iowa. What does the public really think? Andrew?
All right, thanks, Rick. Today I'm going to be talking about a project that we embarked on last year that was looking at public perceptions of water quality in the state of Iowa. And I'd like to first acknowledge my co-authors, Dr. Mary Loesch, Aaron Hayden, and Jill Whitrock. A special thanks also to Mitch Avery, who's another project coordinator, and all of our talented research assistants who helped prepare the slides and work on the project, as well as the hundreds, actually thousands of Iowans who, as you'll see, who took time to participate and provide thoughtful input for this project. This project came about to fulfill one of the goals in the Iowa Non-Point Source Management Plan. That plan is the framework, serves as the framework for the Department of Natural Resources that outlines their goals, objectives, and strategies for improving water quality in Iowa. And one of those goals is to improve technical assistance, education, outreach that will help inform implementation of other strategies in that plan. This survey that we conducted serves as gathering that baseline information that's needed to conduct future research on assessments and to guide implementation, as well as to inform a statewide campaign that will raise awareness on water quality issues in Iowa. To gather this baseline information, we started out we used a mixed methods approach. This is a qualitative design followed up by a quantitative design. So using the qualitative design, what we did was we conducted focus groups, which allows us to talk to Iowans, get in a more informal setting, and figure out the ways that they discuss water and the topics related to water quality that are concerning to them. This is then used to inform our qualitative effort, which is a statewide survey of Iowans older than 18. I want to start by sort of outlining some of the process that's involved in the focus group methods. We conducted 4 90-minute focus groups across the state, 2 in urban counties and 2 in rural counties. We had 29 participants, and during our recruiting, participants were recruited from the CSBR's research registry, which is a group of adult Iowans who have either participated in the past or have indicated that they would like to participate in studies like this. And what we do is we go and we talk to them in these communities, and then we have the information transcribed and we code it for major themes within and across those groups. So this is all to inform the development of the statewide survey. Regarding general perceptions, it became clear that Iowans initially, when you talk about water, their minds jump to drinking water. Not necessarily water that the bluegill would be interested in Iowa's lakes, rivers, and streams, but drinking water specifically. Additionally, they identified that agricultural practices are heavily involved in water quality issues in the state, for good or for bad. Regarding knowledge of waterways, few Iowans could define what a waterway was. As you see up there, I guess I don't know what the hell a watershed is. There's a small creek, but I don't know what it is. Some people one or two were able to give a definition of what a watershed is. One being, it's just the direction of flow of the water that comes off the land. But few individuals identify themselves as being in a particular watershed, which is important when we're talking about messaging to individuals. One of the other aspects that became clear was that Iowans recognized that improving water quality is a shared responsibility in the state across many different stakeholders, whether it's the 10-year-old kid to mega corporations. It's everybody's responsibility, and occasionally you have to have some sort of regulations to protect the interests of the public. Again, some of those focus group key themes were associations with the word water, really focused on drinking water. That was top of mind. Local geography, whether it's urban, rural, can affect individuals' knowledge and views of agriculture, or how agriculture or development or industry impacts water quality. One commonality between urban and rural areas was that causes of poor water quality often focused on agricultural practices. And improving and protecting water quality was viewed as that shared responsibility, but that recent events and experiences related to water, whether it's local flooding or boil orders or a closed beach, those influence awareness and salience of water quality. Again, the utility of this is to help us understand how Iowans talk about water. One thing you may understand, how do you say stream, creek? It turns out Iowans, they say creeks as opposed to streams, so that's helpful when we're asking questions to them to use wording that they use. It also helped us identify underlying factors and prioritize the focuses, the areas we want to focus on for this statewide survey. So discussing the survey itself, this was a telephone survey focused on, or that involved Iowans that are 18 years or older. We had 2,080 responses between February 17th and June 18th of last year. On average, the interview lasted 34 minutes. We used a dual frame random digit dial, which means basically we included landline numbers as well as cell phone numbers. And our response rate, according to the American Association for Political Opinion Research, to add a new acronym to your toolbox, was 31%. And a cooperation rate, which refers to once we actually got a hold of someone, 70% of the people were willing to talk to us. Regarding the content of the survey, we discussed general views on the environment and water quality. Participants were asked their understanding of water quality and causes of water pollution, whether or not they participated in recreational activities related to water, whether or not they behaved in certain ways that were positive or negative, that had positive or negative impacts on water quality, their awareness for strategies for improving water quality, and their views on who's responsible. So following up on what we identified in the focus groups, who's responsible for improving water quality in the state, and whether or not they were willing to pay or invest in water quality improvement. We started out by asking Iowans there to assess whether or not a variety of issues were not a problem, a small problem, a moderate problem, or a very big problem facing Iowa today. This allowed us to look at where issues regarding water quality, how they compared to other issues in Iowa. And what we see is that the top concern for Iowans, with a majority of individuals indicating it was a moderate problem or a very big problem, was the deteriorating conditions of roads and bridges. But just under that, we see that poor quality of water in lakes, rivers, and creeks. Over half of our respondents indicated that that was a moderate or very big problem. Down at the bottom, the not out, was the poor quality of drinking water. Less than 1/3 indicated that that was a problem. So again, we see here why it's necessary to separate out the water quality in lakes, rivers, and creeks and drinking water. But what we see is that poor quality of water in lakes, rivers, and creeks is in line with many of the other issues of importance to Iowans. So we started out by asking, overall, how would you rate water quality in Iowa without cueing them as to whether it was drinking water or water in lakes, rivers, and creeks. We see that over half of Iowans reported that it was good or excellent. We asked respondents about their satisfaction with the quality of water in the city or area where they live. We saw that 80% are satisfied with the quality of water where they live. And we followed up on those 20% that were dissatisfied. We asked them a follow-up uncued question, which refers to open-ended questions, but then we categorize and code and combine into these categories, with this overarching category of bad taste rising to the top. So that was the concern that was highlighted most often by individuals that were dissatisfied with the quality of water in the city or area where they live. And next was they were worried about contamination, whether it's from chemicals or bacteria. We also had individuals identify hard water, whether it was smelly water from chlorine or sulfur, or a murkiness or discoloration to the water. We asked respondents their perceptions of the quality of their home drinking water as it comes from the faucet unfiltered. We saw that 60% indicated that this was good or excellent, so higher than that initial question that we asked. However, over 50% of individuals identified that they had some concerns over the safety of their tap water by indicating that it was either moderately or extremely concerned over their tap water. We asked them about the perceptions of the quality of lakes, rivers, and creeks in Iowa, both statewide as well as near their homes. We see that 45 and 46% of Iowans think that the quality of lakes, rivers, or creeks near their home is good and excellent. But we see similar response patterns locally as well as statewide. We asked respondents to reflect on, over the last 10 years, what changes they've seen in the quality of water in Iowa's lakes, rivers, and creeks. And we saw that the majority, or 50%, said that it has remained constant, or that they haven't seen a change. However, 30% have seen or believe that it's been getting worse. And we asked them to project that in the next 10 years, how will the quality of water in lakes, rivers, and creeks change in their area? About over 2/3 said that they thought it would stay the same or improve. We wanted to ask individuals about their level of knowledge regarding water quality issues in their area. Are they familiar with it? And this is self-reported knowledge, so it's not objective. This is their opinions. With 45% said that they have neither high nor low levels of knowledge regarding water quality issues in their communities. And 31% said very low or low, while nearly a quarter said that they had very high or high levels of knowledge regarding water quality issues. To follow up with that, we asked them about an uncued question again, about the sources of water pollution in Iowa. The top two concerns that were identified, or top two sources of water pollution, were agricultural runoff, whether that's from nitrogen, phosphorus, or sediment, and agricultural chemicals from herbicides or insecticides. But to round off the top five, we had illegal dumping of trash or litter, runoff from livestock waste or manure, and urban runoff as well. Now, this question was not an uncued question. This is after that one, we're asking them specific items, whether or not they identify these possible contaminants as affecting waters near them. So this is asking them the perceptions of severity of threat posed to Iowa's water by these potential sources of pollution. And we see that the top issues again are runoff from livestock waste. We had 40% indicating this was a serious threat. 8 in 10 Iowans identified runoff from livestock waste, industrial or factory waste, runoff from cropland, and dumping oil or household chemicals down the drain as moderate or serious threats to Iowa's water pollution, or water. Again, asking them about whether or not these possible contaminants were affecting waterways in their area. We asked individuals to indicate whether they think it is or know it, or think it is not, know it is not, whether they're unsure, or whether they think it is or know it is a contaminant that's affecting waterways in their area. And we saw that 8 in 10 Iowans identified that nitrates from fertilizer, phosphates from fertilizer, and pesticides, they either think it is or know it is a contaminant that's affecting waterways in their areas. On the bottom, Iowans were not concerned about waste from pets, such as dogs, with the majority of them indicating that they think it is not or know it is not a problem. Individuals were most uncertain about whether or not minerals such as iron, manganese, or calcium, or heavy metals such as lead, arsenic, or mercury were contaminants affecting waterways in their area. Next, we asked a series of attitude questions. We asked 15 statements assessing individuals' attitudes towards a variety of different water quality, whether or not they strongly disagreed to strongly agreed with a series of statements about water quality issues in Iowa. We saw that 6 in 10 Iowans agreed or strongly agreed that water runoff from livestock, water runoff from livestock operations is a problem in Iowa. 6 in 10 agreed that we need to increase regulations for landowners to protect soil and water, as well as runoff from agricultural crop production is a threat to their drinking water. And 6 in 10 were concerned about chemicals in their drinking water. Next, these questions were more about the attitudes regarding water quality improvement. We saw that Iowans strongly agreed that clean water is needed for strong economic growth in Iowa. We need to improve lakes, rivers, and creeks for tourism and recreation. And we need to increase incentives for farmers to protect soil and water. We also saw that many Iowans, 80% of Iowans, said that they were willing to change some of their daily behaviors to improve water quality in the area. But at the bottom, we see that fewer of them know what steps they should take to help protect Iowa's waterways. We saw that 6 in 10 disagreed, or strongly disagreed, that water pollution laws are too tough in Iowa. And nearly half said efforts to keep water clean should be voluntary rather than mandated by the government. Sorry, they disagreed with that. So I'm a little self-conscious with gill, the fish, the bluegill here. But we asked Iowans whether or not they believed it was safe to eat fish caught in Iowa waterways. We saw that we asked them about lakes, rivers, creeks, as well as farm ponds. And fewer Iowans would eat a fish out of a farm pond in a creek. But 69% of Iowans, over 2/3, said that they feel it would be safe to eat fish caught out of an Iowa lake. Next, we wanted to gauge some of the behaviors that they are involved in. 78% of Iowans agreed that, or indicated that they either own a garden or a lawn. In which case, those individuals were asked this question, whether or not they applied fertilizer to the lawns. 37% apply or hire someone to apply conventional fertilizers to the lawns. 14% use some sort of organic, whether it's compost or organic fertilizer. 9% use both, but the largest group don't apply fertilizer at all to their lawns or gardens. We asked them about whether or not they, in general, Iowans were pretty good about picking up their pet waste. I wish they lived near me. Using commercial car washes, whether it's a self-wash or an automatic wash. And then this last question, we're unsure of the expectations for this, but this is how many, 50% of Iowans identified they use some sort of hazardous waste drop-off for chemicals, paints, excess hazardous wastes. But this may be an opportunity for improvement, but again, we're unsure of what this expectation should be. We wanted to get a sense of whether or not individuals remember hearing or being exposed to information about water quality issues in their area. We saw that a majority, 57%, were called seeing, hearing, or reading information about water quality in their area. Individuals were asked what form of information they received or where they saw this, with the most indicating that it was from a news story in the local media, or a brochure, a flyer, a letter, or some other written information. We asked individuals what source this came from. And the most often were local water company or utility, some sort of media or broadcast outlet, and the DNR. We asked individuals where they go or what sources of information they use to retrieve information about water quality and conservation in Iowa. And 43% turned to the internet. But other sources are state and federal agencies and conservation groups. An important aspect of information is the trustworthiness of the source. We see that local conservation boards, or local watershed boards, scientists and researchers have a high degree of trust with the public, with about 90% indicating that they're mostly trustworthy or very trustworthy. That's a great thing for a lot of people in this room, I imagine. On the lower end of the scale, we see internet websites. So here's this discrepancy between people turning to the internet for their primary source and then not trusting any internet websites. We asked them about the responsibility for working to improve water quality in the state. Again, this is a reflection of what we found in the focus groups. And we saw that across the board, everyone is somewhat or completely responsible for working to improve water quality. This emphasizes that fact that we're looking for participation from all stakeholders. That this is a shared responsibility across stakeholders. We asked them how well various groups are fulfilling their responsibility to protect water quality. So are they actually doing what they should be doing? Local government was high on the bottom there. You see that 50% or 49% said that they were fulfilling their responsibilities well or very well. Farmers, 42% said they were fulfilling theirs well or very well. And citizens or residents of the state can improve a little bit to catch up with farmers. We asked them about how much they'd be willing to pay in additional taxes or fees designed to improve water quality in Iowa. As can be expected, we see a decline as the amount of money increases. But the big takeaway is that 83% of Iowans indicated they'd be willing to pay an additional $10 in taxes or fees annually to improve water quality in Iowa. So that can add up to quite a bit of money. We did some subgroup analysis with logistical regressions to look at how well these different demographic factors affected individuals' attitudes towards water quality. So what we did is we designed models around 3 different aspects. The attitudes toward water quality, which we created a dichotomous variable, whether they had low agreement on attitudes toward water quality versus high agreement on water quality. That means that those that were in the high group, they responded more frequently in the agree to strongly agree than in the disagree. As well as poor quality drinking water, whether it was not a problem or a small problem versus a moderate or very big problem. And the same thing for poor quality water in lakes, rivers, and creeks in Iowa. Regarding attitudes toward water quality protection, again, this is that 15-item scale that we had that we made a composite score and then assigned them high or low. You see that younger Iowans aged 18 to 34 are more likely to have low agreement on those in terms of the protection of water quality and improvement of water quality in Iowa. High agreement, women were more likely to have high agreement. Lower income individuals making less than $50,000. Residents, urban or non-rural residents, residents of towns and cities, and those who fish. Regarding poor quality drinking water, lower income individuals were more likely to indicate that this was a moderate or very big problem. While younger Iowans, rural residents, and those with lower or mixed levels of self-reported knowledge were more likely to indicate that poor quality drinking water was not a problem or a very small problem in Iowa. Regarding the poor quality of lakes, rivers, and creeks in Iowa, younger Iowans, again, rural residents, and those with lower or mixed levels of self-reported knowledge were more likely to indicate that this was not a problem or a small problem, while women and older residents were more likely to indicate this is a moderate or very big problem. The last aspect that we asked about was sense of place. And sense of place is a measure of a relationship that an individual has with land or a certain area. And this set of questions, these 12 items that are designed to measure constructs around place identity, emotional attachment, and dependence on the land, they were asked to the 24% of respondents who identified that they live or have property near a lake or river in Iowa. So these questions are things like, everything about my lake property is a reflection of me. I feel relaxed when I'm at my lake property. My lake property is the best place for doing the things that I enjoy most. What we see is that 54% of Iowans had place attachment, or this high sense of place, while 46% had low sense of place. When we add this to the model that was incorporating the previous variables, we see that individuals who have low or no sense of place are more likely to have low agreement on that scale that assesses individuals' agreement with items for protecting water quality in Iowa. Whereas a high sense of place can, or are more likely to have high agreement. So establishing a sense of place may be an important aspect for improving. If you can relate a place and make it special to people, they may be more likely to want to protect it. But we did not see the sense of place variable. It was not significant in the poor quality drinking water or poor quality in lakes, rivers, and creeks. So to recap, the majority of Iowans are satisfied with water quality in their area. Almost 60% rate their unfiltered home drinking water as good or excellent. About half of Iowans say that waterways are about the same as they were 10 years ago, but 30% report they're getting worse. Agricultural runoff is viewed as the top threat to water quality in Iowa, and 80% of Iowans recognize nitrates and phosphates as water pollutants. The majority of Iowans reported using waterways for recreation in the past 2 years, so recreation is important, especially related to water. Just over half of Iowans reported having heard or seen information about water quality in their community. It's an area that we can work to improve. The majority of Iowans did not report being involved in any sort of environmental volunteering focused on water. Iowans view improvement of water quality as a shared responsibility. I think this is one of the big messages, that this is something that all stakeholders have a hand in. And a large majority of Iowans indicate a willingness to pay either additional taxes or fees to help improve water quality in the state. So they're willing to do something. This is just a subset of the results that we have from this project. I want to stress that the full report is available on the DNR's Watershed Improvement website. If you go to dnr.gov, and then or iowdnr.gov, the environmental protection tab, then the water quality, then the watershed improvement, then it's over there in the bottom right corner. So they put it up front. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Questions for Andrew?
Yes. The question was, do we have a sense of how these numbers have changed over the last few years? This survey was designed to establish the baseline information, so much of this information is not available at a statewide level in Iowa. So this is really to establish that baseline information that can then be used to assess how well projects work in the future. So we can look at how much change happens across the state. So this is really the first goal. And we'll look to see, we'll be able to use this information to assess how well our projects work in the future. Yeah?
You looked at rural and urban areas where you're, did you take the more exact measurements of where they live and look at like clusters to see, oh, more parts of north may have more low agreement versus south that have higher agreement? Did you look at that at all when you did your survey?
Yeah, great question. I'll repeat the question. Did we look at other scales of geographic influence on responses? So whether it was north, south, east, west, different watersheds? Yes, we did. While we did find some significant results, we looked for a trend across, whether or not that trend is relevant across many different questions or whether it holds water, if you will. And what we found was that there were no big changes from, we looked at the major the 4 watersheds across Iowa, as well as different, splitting the state into northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, and we didn't see any major things. We did see some differences when we looked at specifically Des Moines versus the rest of the state, and a lot of that is available in the report. So. Yes?
Do we know on the attitudes and knowledge of Iowans compared to other states?
The question was, do we know how the attitudes and knowledge of Iowans compare to other states? There haven't been many in the Midwest that I know of. There are some that have been done. I think Illinois just finished one recently, so we haven't had a chance to compare results to them. Methods are slightly different. That needs to be taken into consideration, but we don't have a good idea at this moment about comparisons to other states. But that would be a great next step. Yes?
I didn't see into the survey, but maybe your focus groups, did you get a feel of how parents or adults feel about allowing kids to play in rivers, lakes, and creeks and ponds?
That's a great question. Did we get a sense of how parents felt about children playing in Iowa waterways? Right. I'm going to pass this one to Erin, one of the co-authors who really conducted a lot of focus groups, and see if she has anything to say on that.
So in the quantitative surveys, nothing was specifically asked about how parents feel about their children's playing in Iowa waterways. And in the focus groups, a couple individuals did bring up personal experiences about taking their child to a beach and having it closed, or I can also recall another individual mentioning that your child had gotten sick or a rash after, but you can't really draw anything broadly from those single experiences that come up in the focus group. What we really use those anecdotal things that came up in the focus group for was to look for those areas that we really needed to ask about in the statewide survey.
Other questions? Yep.
I think this provided a lot of really great information. My question is, kind of what would you estimate this survey cost? And could it be brought down and redone on a watershed level for groups that are doing watershed?
I'm going to start by saying that you said that this provided a lot of great information. The question was, what does this sort of project cost, and can it be applied on a more local level? I think that you can do this project on a local level, and I think that you can do it pretty cost effectively. There's quite a few different ways to do it. You can use online methods. You can do mail surveys. You can do telephone surveys. I don't have the numbers on how much this costs in my head, so I can't speak to that. I was a project coordinator. I don't get to do that sort of stuff. But what I can say is that I do think that a lot of this is applicable on a more local level. So that's something that I'd be happy to discuss with you more at one of the breaks. Yes?
Once you guys conduct all of this research, what are different ways you use it?
So a lot of this information is designed, again, to be this baseline information for, as we go forward in implementing more of the strategies, as the Department of Natural Resources goes forward and implementing a lot more of the strategies for the non-point source management plan, we can assess again in 5 years, 10 years, some of these things have changed. Have individuals, Iowans' awareness changed across the state in terms of water quality? Have their behaviors changed at all? Has their knowledge levels changed? So there's a lot of issues, there's a lot of information identified here that's used to look at how much progress have we made based on the projects that we've implemented. So we're really looking for, this is where we're at now, where are we going to be in 10 years or 5 years after we've implemented some more of our strategies and more of the non-point source management plan. Yes? Alan in the room? Alan, the question, sorry, I missed that last. The question was, what are some of the strategies for the non-point source management plan? I'm sure many of you in here have it memorized, right? I would pass that one to Alan Bonini to see if he can address some of those more specifically.
Yeah, I think my voice is loud enough. The strategy has to be developed yet. We need to get the survey done first so we could tease out from the survey which elements of it we want to try to affect the change over time. I've had some preliminary discussions with some of our partners and with some of our internal experts in DNR, communication staff. We hope to be meeting later this spring to start talking about that and coming up with a strategy to develop a campaign around whatever elements of that survey we feel we have the ability over time to affect the change in their knowledge, attitudes, or beliefs. So I don't have the answer to the question, but we are embarking on a process to develop a strategy and then implement it. That's what the plan really calls for.
So the question was that there's a lot of news right now about Flint, Michigan, and this information was collected last year, February 17th to June 18th, so last year, about a year ago. We believe that water issues were highly salient to the general public because at the time there was also an announcement of a Des Moines lawsuit regarding the Des Moines Waterworks. So that came out. They announced that. This has nothing to do with that. I'll stress that. This is all to inform the Iowa Non-Point Source Management Plan. But that did occur at the same time, so that may have influenced individuals' perception of agricultural contributions to water quality, or whether or not just water quality issues making them more relevant to them. And Aaron?
So I think what we did learn from both the focus groups and the survey is that what we in the survey field would call a natural event, something that's out of our control, whether something crops up in the news, such as the Flint, Michigan, or I do remember somebody in the focus group mentioning the Ohio event that happened 2 years ago, that we do know that these public events do raise the awareness of water, the salience of water to Iowans, and so I think we would expect that their awareness of that event happening in Michigan would be there, and also that it might then therefore influence their attitudes or perceptions or how they think about the water in the state.
Any other questions for Andrew?
Yep.
I know you pointed out that the connection to lakes, there's water, they have a specific lake or stream that they're very strongly connected to, that tends to be more inclined to care about water issues. How do we develop that sense of place?
That's a great question. I'm sure there's a lot of literature on it. I would say one thing to consider in this too is that we ask that question to individuals who live or have water or property near water. You can have a sense of place about Ada Hayden. You can have a sense of place about Big Woods Lake up in Cedar Falls where we are. There are public places where you can develop a sense of place where your family has gone to. So I think that getting people outdoors and experiencing it and reducing negative interactions with those places and promoting positive interactions, whether it's fishing, kayaking, sitting by the beach, skipping rocks, whatever it is, that ensuring the highest probability of having a positive interaction with those spaces is probably one of the best ways to help foster that sense of place. All right, one more? Oh, all right. Where was that question? In the back?
I was just curious if you had any knowledge if this survey was going to be given again next year or
Yeah, the point of this sort of information is to gather it now, again, for that baseline information, and then to look in 5 or 10 years to do something similar to assess how much we've moved that needle in terms of how much influence or how much impact have the actions we've taken in that time affected any of the things we've measured here. So yeah, I'd look for it again in future years. But participants in the survey were not paid. Participants in the focus groups did receive a gift card. And then Aaron had one more comment on
Just something that I thought about as all of these questions have been asked and Andrew has done that presentation is that, we at the Center for Social and Behavior Research were hired to conduct this survey as part of the goals and objectives that the DNR outlined under their non-point source management plan. But it's a public report, and so I think the other thing to remember is that there is lots of opportunities in the findings of this survey to take back to your organizations to help inform what you may do. So, if your goal is to better align what people's attitudes are or what they fear about water to what maybe is actually the reality in your area, that's an opportunity for you to take the results of this survey and apply it to your daily work. So I think, you know, the uses, the utility of this survey goes beyond just what the DNR wants to use it for, and has broad applications across the state.
Again, I'll say that in the report, all the questions that were asked are in that report. So if you do want to do something similar on a local level, those questions are available. They're in the report at the end. All right.